So this session is going to be a quick look at functions and subroutines and some of the bad programming practices that we see. I'm going to start a new project again. I'll make it a Windows Forms application. Doesn't really matter for this one. And it's going to be functions and subroutines. Say OK. Now, what a lot of people do when they create code to start with, before they learn to do it better, is use what are essentially globals. I'm just adding a few controls here so that we'll be able to see the outputs and have a button to control it. So a lot of people, for instance, will say if we wanted a program to convert to temperatures, we're going to have temp C as it's going to be, we'll make it a double. That's a particular type of variable which holds floating point numbers. And we're going to say dim temp F as double. What I'll do, because we're going to want to take those values from somewhere, I'll actually go back to my form and I'll add another couple of controls. So that's going to be our output. But we'll add in, here we go, text box here. That'll be where we put the data in. We'll actually rename this so that we can see which way we're going, C to F. We can only see it if we make it big enough. One interesting thing, just while I'm here, I can copy and paste that, so Control. I should be able to copy and paste that. There we go. And I'll change that name to convert F to C. Okay, now those are two separate buttons. This is button 2, that's button 1. You see the name here. So when I've copied and pasted it, it's created a new button. It's not inherited anything else, although it took the text that was originally there. So if we want to convert centigrade to Fahrenheit, just check this is called text box 2. So centigrade to Fahrenheit, I'll assume to start with that we're going to have numbers in that box so we can get around to worrying about how to check for that later. Sorry, I've just forgotten that's C to F, right. We'll take the temperature from text box 2, so temp C equals double dot parse. This takes the value that's in text and tries to interpret it as being a number. Now in Visual Basic actually we've got shortcut ways of doing this, but it's better practice to use a deliberate conversion. So textbox2.text. Don't make the mistake of trying to use textbox2, that's a control. Textbox2 text is the string that it contains. So that's set the temp C, then temp F, the conversion from C to F is to multiply by 9, divided by 5, and add 32. And we will say text box 1 dot append text temp F dot string. And as you probably know by now, I do like to have my line feeds in. So if I run that, and bring it back in here, we'll put a number in here. Today it's due to be 22 degrees, I believe, so we'll convert centigrade to Fahrenheit. That will be 71.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So at the moment, convert F to C does nothing. Okay. Now, if we go back here, we can add the code for this one. Again, we're going to take the text from the text box. Bear in mind that what I'm doing here is not what I'd like to see you doing, generally speaking, but this is just an example of bad practice. So here, to do it the other way around, we take temp F, we subtract 32. Now we're going to need brackets around that because of the precedence. If the minuses and pluses are a lower precedence than times and divides, so we need to think about that when we're typing our expression in. We multiply by 5 and divide by 9. And text box 1 dot append text temp C dot to string. Okay, so I run that now, and we can put 22 in there, convert it. We can copy and paste here, that into there, convert back, and that'll be 22, as we would expect to see. 100 degrees centigrade should be 212 Fahrenheit, and minus 32 degrees centigrade is minus 25.6 Fahrenheit. So we've got a conversion thing, not the best output in the world, I grant. Now, that is using, these are not global, but they are fields or variables that are contained at the form level. And we are manipulating them and changing them in subroutines. It's a much better idea to write functions which take a value and return a value, rather than doing things essentially by side effect. This is a subroutine which runs and happens to change values that are out here. So let's define a function, C to F, which takes a temperature as a double, and it returns a value that's a double. Okay, so we're telling it it's a function. It's going to be private, just this form, but we won't worry about that too much. Function, this is its name. These are the formal parameters, in this case just the one. It takes a temperature, and it tells it what type of data that is, and it tells it what sort of value it's returning. And now we can say C to F. So we return the temp that we've been given times 9 over 5 plus 32. And we can do the same for the other way around. Function F to C, temp as double, and there we would return temp minus 32 times 5 over 9. Now those functions can be used anywhere, and instead of having this sort of messy nonsense, what we can do is we can comment these out so that they're not sitting around cluttering the place up. We might want them for other reasons, but at the moment that's not a point for us. We would then have to dim this, to be fair, as double. And we then don't want this piece of code. Get rid of that. This is going to be the C to F of temp C to string. And in this one, again, we can make this dim that as double. And temps, we don't need that line. This line is going to be F to C of, oh, that's a surprise that ever worked. That should have been temp F. Interesting. Anyway, we can check later to try and work out why my original program worked, because I'm just thinking it shouldn't have done. And that's part of the joy of programming. You find sometimes that things look like they work. My testing obviously wasn't rigorous enough. Anyway, so if we run this now, we should find that 22 C to F, 71.6, that's good. Convert F to C, takes it to 22, also good. And that is now using the functions instead of the hard-coded, and that would allow us to come up with a much wider variety of things. Worth having a quick look. What happens if there's a mistake in the input? If convert C to F, oops, oh look, it breaks. The input string was not in the correct format because it had text in it. And we'll look at that sort of problem later. So have a play around with creating functions and how they return values.